Our panel presentation proposes a fully somatic experience of listening to and embodying 4 poems on the theme of memory. Inez and I emphasized embodiment in the title to share a few key ideas. Memory itself is embodied. It lives in our flesh as much or more than in our thinking minds. Good poetry, sometimes just one memorable line, often speaks to the heart and goes all the way down to the bone. Good poetry can affect us like powerful music, literally moving the body in spontaneous ways. Writing poetry requires devoted attention to the sound of the words and the rhythm of the meter. We write and hear poetry as if it were music. Finally, images in poetry are often autonomous and surprising beings that are compact and full of life. As I was preparing these remarks at the beginning of our panel presentation, the tarot image that spontaneously showed up for the day is the major arcana labeled Art in my deck. It is a beautiful image of a stout and muscular soror mystica tending the alchemical cauldron. She's accompanied by 2 animal familiars, lion and eagle. How perfect, right? As if any one of us needed a reminder of just how much physical exertion creativity requires. Even when we generate only a few stanzas or a paragraph, it requires strength and stamina, focus and commitment. As the soror mystica knows, the heat in the kitchen is immense. What's going to happen in the next several minutes is that Inez will introduce her poems and her creative process and read each one of them. Then I will do the same, an introduction and then the poetry reading. We sincerely hope that something in what you're about to hear will move you. Yes, move. It could be a subtle internal response located in an organ or limb, perhaps a bodily gesture or a shift in posture. We invite you to reflect on a phrase you recall and any somatic movement you wish to remember. And now I turn it over to Inez.
Greetings. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to speak about and to share poetry and memory with you. These two, poetry and memory, have a long history together. From the tradition familiar to those of us educated in the West, we learn that poetry was the revered tool of collective memory. The ancient Greeks taught their epic and religious beliefs in sung poems. Poetry became a means of personal as well as collective transformation when it began to be the language of drama. There would come a moment when a character would make a critical discovery, and that knowledge changed him or her. Poetic language has this power to transform partly because it uses concrete language, imagistic language that appeals to the senses, and thus to our emotions as well as to our thinking. In the first poem I'm about to read, the image of St. Peter standing sternly with his arms crossed as I present myself for admission to the realm of the blessed is such an image, presumably more powerful than an abstract statement about dying and having one's life judged worthy or not. I have been writing poems of memoir for some years now. One discovery I have made is that memory has served me in different ways over my lifetime. When I was young, for example, it helped me learn from experience. In old age, it substitutes for my disappearing abilities to do in the present, offering virtual experience of what I've done in the past, thus offering emerging patterns of narrative coherence that give me experiences of meaning. I've chosen the following 2 poems to share with you because they represent 2 aspects of memory I want to highlight. The first poem addresses a memory caught in my body, exchanges between priests and my adolescent self, indicating that my living authentically as a woman loving women rather than men erotically, meant an eternity of damnation. I've carried this understanding as a just so fact that did not prevent my living my life. I carried it even long after I left Catholicism behind, the way you carry a hitch in your walk, not often thinking about it, although it no doubt has affected my persona as well as myself. I think it ultimately bucked up my courage. In any case, in my mid-80s, I had an exchange with my partner that led to the following poem, in which the power of physical laughter loosened that remembered understanding of being damned that had become fixed in my body. On the surface of the poem, I was struggling with the memoir writer's problem of how personal detail might have any meaning for other people's lives. Writing memoir. Does it matter? I, toddler, was bequeathed buttered toast and coffee by my great-grandmother who spoke no English. Does it matter? There was a hole in the hedges of my school, yielding the sidewalks of the world, appearing in my dream of imagined ocean, and a sky full of unseen angels singing, serenading, diving enraptured dolphins? Does it matter my well-adjusted sophomore roommate knew to wrap her cleansed hair in a large towel, her smiling turban face revisiting me many a shampoo I've given myself since? Does it matter I grasped the thrill in my collie's joy, dashing round and round between the bushes of yellow roses and the white solid fence enfolding my private backyard realm? Do such moments matter? Now I have lived so long past them. Having accumulated 85 years of me, not enough time remains, nor space for today to gather them, even selectively, to me again, unless. This morning, as I imposed upon my partner yet another rehearsed apology before St. Peter, he standing stern, arms crossed, listening, she invisibly slipped into his role and began cheerfully to sing. Open the gate and come on in. I am so glad to see you. You're like a rainbow coming round the bend. And so unexpected, so unimagined, a greeting from God's own particular gatekeeper collapsed me in laughter, body bending, tear spurting laughter, gobsmacked the chip I knew not I carried right off my shoulder and turned me and all my minutiae into tiny highlights to offer to all and sundry. Let them self-select. I could embody welcome. I've chosen the next poem because it records the transformation enabled by the laughter, cathartically releasing the understanding fixed in memory in my body conveyed in the first poem. The release of the locked memory enabled a new psychological attitude. No longer living my life on trial. No God to please or appease. No parents or peers with power to say yea or nay to my taking space upon our common earth, breathing our common air, but finding laughter in my heart, at my body still climbing stairs, both up and down, the bubbling spring of words, every day offering poems, alive always with the rhythms of breath, my petting hand still sparking a shake in my dog, my hugging arms a smile of yes in my partner, my eyes receiving human genius from so many books, my ears, heart's music from so many melodies, my imagination, mysteries of future fishing from the past, living at last with gratitude, not apology, for the miracle of my life. These two poems capture for me how memory and psychological attitude live in states both fixed and malleable, making increased psychological freedom possible. My poems deal with individual psyche. I now pass the poet's baton to Elizabeth, whose poems address directly individual and archetypal psyche.
Thank you, Inez. I really appreciate your poems. As I reflect on Jung's work, one core value emerges: to make a sacred place in the lives of well-adapted adults for the irrational and the incomprehensible, because it is real, no matter how much our rational minds resist. In the commentary on The Secret of the Golden Flower, Jung describes the new attitude that is produced through working with spontaneous images of the psyche, treating them as persons, to borrow Hillman's language. If you think about it for a moment, you'll realize that Jung's practice is boldly irrational. It is also essential to the process of individuation. Welcoming the living images is of the greatest value, Jung says, especially for someone who selects from among the things that happen only those that are acceptable to his conscious judgment. Such people, he warns us, are gradually drawn out of the stream of life into a stagnant backwater. Jung wrote the commentary on The Secret of the Golden Flower shortly after his deep engagement with the materials that became the Red Book. By 1929, he had plenty of experience to speak about the irrational and the incomprehensible. He had been meeting regularly with the other in its most intimate manifestation, psychic images that he did not produce and could not control. Jung realized that the images place a great responsibility on us. We must take the time to understand them, realize that the images bear an ethical obligation, and respond to that obligation in our words and actions. Images, in other words, are not decoration or entertainment or commodities, the way they're usually regarded in contemporary culture. Relishing the autonomy and unpredictability of the image is countercultural, or, as some would say, just downright weird. I've been teaching something I call weird writing lately, partly because my own writing has become weirder. But what do I mean by weird? Simply, the weird is outside and beyond ordinary experience, like Jung's Salome and Philemon. The weird is an incursion of something that does not belong at all to the way things usually are. Here's a simple example of the weird. I have often found that an author's emotion or mood while writing invests the subtle energy field of the words. Sensitive readers can pick up on the mood, no matter how many weeks, months, years, or decades they read the work after it was written. The other of the text in those moments comes alive energetically. A couple of authors I recommend on the topic of the weird are Mark Fisher and Eric Davis. As Davis says, calling an event weird does announce the appearance of something like anomaly, or at least deviancy, inexplicable, aberrant, or unsettling events or encounters that pull or twist against the norm. Statistically, such deviations may be perfectly routine, but they never feel that way, so we don't know where to put them. In other words, when we pay attention, the non-ordinary, the weird is ordinary. The weird happens all the time. So you're probably asking yourself, why is she talking about this? And when will she get to the poems, for God's sakes? Please bear with me a little bit longer. The first poem, Ladylike by Design, exemplifies the psychological mode. No question the images were alive for me, which is sort of weird if you're not a Jungian, but the verses draw upon personal family memories. The arrival of the second poem, please note arrival, not composition, was fully weird. It's entitled The Serpent Song. The living image, the serpent, was part of my daily ritual practice for years, symbolized by the one piece of jewelry I wear in a symbolic, intentional manner. The serpent, however, was working me in ways I did not know and could not name, and for much longer than I have had this piece of jewelry. For months, though, recently, I knew something was incubating, but I did no writing. Then, in a matter of hours, I wrote the verses. It was as though something or someone was drawing me down to a very deep, very dark place. I had to go there. Later, when I sensed that the finished poem needed editing, I chose a deep place underground and asked permission to revise the verses. I wasn't going to make a change to that poem unless I got a yes. I believe the Serpent Song is an example of what Jung called the visionary mode. I served as the scribe for ancient blood memories. To some extent, all of my writing is deliberately weird. I welcome the irrational and the inexplicable. I invite the image to guide the creative process in a combination of improvisation and choreography. But it's true, some works are weirder than others. So here is the first poem. Ladylike, by design. At 19, you wore a hat because your friends said he liked them. You designed it yourself. Delicate netting, lace, and velvet, tipping forward, one pale eye gleaming like a wink, sly. At 20, you stood aboard the ship, right hand gripping the crook of his elbow, stalwart in a broad-shouldered suit, gabardine armor. You designed it yourself for the terra incognita of marriage and motherhood, thousands of miles from home. At 21, the first of 5 children arrived, though only 4 survived. You wanted all of us, you said. Lines fitted to your role, we knew, foretold by that ladylike armor, demure, pleasing. You designed it yourself. What vision was sacrificed to home and hearth? A species of blindness? Or was it a one-eyed wisdom citing the only role permitted you? I never believed the compliant costume that only partly suffocated a roaring rage, even if you designed it yourself. Hours after his death and 49 years of marriage, the strong arm you once gripped, sailing to a future fathomless, now ashes in a cold plastic box. Not his warm flesh. No one would have designed this abyss of loss, not even yourself. Bowed over the kitchen sink, your shoulders heave, silent. Your armor gone, my hand reaches out. You flinch. Too soon, too soon, too soon. Death strips us to the bone. No one would have designed such naked grief. Not you, not I. The Serpent Song, a prose poem. Sing, Metis, cunning goddess, conning goddess. Sing of far-sighted wisdom and deep thought. Sing of betrayal by a powerful mate who swallowed you whole, envying you and your daughter, the shining one, pale-eyed Athene. Only a girl, no threat, he supposed. Yet you in your craft, Metis, fashioned armor, spear, and shield. Fierce daughters, always a headache. Engendered in the father's mind, the dutiful girl child never imagined that the serpents on her shield, silent for millennia, would one day speak in sibilant whispers the necessity of wisdom and deep thought. Gliding down the watery canal of the daughter's shell-like ears, the mother's words would ignite a slumbering fury. Sing, Athene, of rising mother wisdom, blood memories of primeval dragon Tiamat, hacked to pieces, the murderer Marduk, a celebrated culture hero. Sing of Ereshkigal, the mournful, the vengeful, who conferred on her naive sister Inanna a gift, the cool, lidless eye of death, so like her serpent dragon kin. A mixed blessing the goddess will learn when seeing reveals a husband's betrayal. Have we always seen and known yet forgotten? Sing to us, Tiamat, Ereshkigal, Inanna, Metis. Sing to us, remember. Let wisdom and deep thought flow down the millennia of father's envy, lover's envy, hero's envy, of the unseen power dwelling within the envied. Mother wisdom, sister wisdom, eternal fecundity of the eternal goddess. Were you not entertained, Athene, when the wedding guests, luxuriously sated, petitioned the hero for Medusa's tale? Then Perseus told of beauteous hair, a god's violence, and of you, Athene, punishing the victim, not the rapist. A good story, one supposes, though not so glorious as killing the she-monster. They remember that tale. What blood memories stirred when Medusa was blamed, when shining locks became writhing snakes? The serpents remembered. Emblazoned in bronze on Athene's shield, they remembered the far-seeing Metis, the mother who knew the blood tide would flow, dangerous nourishment, a mixed blessing. The cold serpentine eye sees all, pitiless. Sing, Medusa, of rapists and heroes, covetous males, conquering males, preening victors of the patriarchy. How did you feel when pale-eyed Athene proudly displayed your monstrous head, a trophy honoring a killer? So like her father, of course, and his brother Predator, too. Blood memories sing today, the serpentine horror in truth a heritage. The cold eye of death, the lidless eye, sees all. Tiamat, Ereshkigal, Inanna, Metis, Medusa. Unremembered they awaken in the father's daughter. No error that Athene carries Medusa near her heart. No, the serpent did not miss the mark. Have we always seen and known yet forgotten? Sing to us, mothers, help us remember the silent wisdom flowing down the millennia, the eternal fecundity of the eternal goddess. Sing, serpent of winding your length around a singular tree, of knowledge, they say, of wisdom, say you, and I trust the serpent. Cool, lidless eyes watched a foolish family drama, another divine father annoyed with his children, the dull story, repetitive, predictable. Patriarchs are so tedious. Did thou choose the fruit of the tree? He demanded. No, father, said the man. The woman tempted me. Did thou choose? The father asked the daughter. No, father. The serpent beguiled me. Then all three turned, waiting for you to speak your line. But you, serpent, gazing with lidless eyes, already bored with yet another puny god, you said nothing. The power of the blood, serpentine, winds down the generations. Tiamat, Ereshkigal, Inanna, Metis, Medusa. You, serpent, with your lidless eyes, the cool gaze that sees all, you know even the foolish Eve will one day observe the blood mother's awakening to end the patriarchal games.